So our next speaker name is Jeff Jameson. He is presenting speech number 3 tonight, and the goal of this speech is to get to the point. The point that Jeff wants to make is that we all have remarkable stories to tell about our lives. He is continually blown away by the power of personal stories, delivered by many in this room, and he wants to remind all of us, to not hold back. The title of this speech is Remember to Share Your Stories, because we're enabled and enriched by them every single day. Please help me welcome Jeff.
I am 4 years old. Hushed voices in my house. And it's really weird. I'm in the upstairs hallway and all the bedroom doors are shut. All day, every day. I've never seen that before. Where are my mother and father? I haven't seen them in days. Why is my grandmother here? What is happening? Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and welcome guests. That is a little bit of my early childhood growing up in Warren, Ohio. My father died when I was 4, leaving my mother alone to raise a 6-year-old, a 4-year-old, and a 1-year-old. Tragic, right? I mean, you know, it's remarkable, but not unheard of. What I want to talk about tonight is the fact that you all have remarkable stories to tell. I mean, I've already heard many stories from people in this room already. I'm going to share stories from 3 lives tonight as examples to encourage you to look inside yourselves, consider your own precious, wonderful stories, honor them, and then think of how you can tell those stories, because we're all better for listening to them. We learn from them all the time. So, let me see. Excuse me. How many of you have heard the Moth Radio Hour on PBS? Not everybody. If you haven't, check it out. How about TED Talks? Of course. I'm surprised that people haven't heard of TED Talks. But those are examples of people telling their stories. So, you know, we all should have a TED Talk or a Moth Radio story right in our back pocket. But your Toastmasters, I'm preaching to the choir. But I'm just saying. Anyway, back to my story. So, I'm 4. My father dies. He was a small-town doctor in Warren. Here's a picture of him and my mother. But he drank and he took pills. He overprescribed for himself. As a matter of fact, he got the flu one day and overprescribed medications that kill the friendly flora in his gut. His body went into septic shock, and everything shut down, and he died. And this was at age 37. So my mother remarried 2 years later, and amazing story number 2, she marries the first cousin of my father who lives down the street. So in other words, my grandmother and my step-grandmother were sisters. Here's the picture. I know this is a bad reproduction, I will send it around, but this is my glamorous mother over here on the right. That's me at about 3 sitting on her lap. It's my grandfather. And then this is Uncle Bob, who is my father's cousin. And my mother married him 3 years later. So you can just pass that around. Could have worked out, I guess, but my father and stepfather were rivals in that small town. So when we went to live with my stepfather, there could be no mention of my father at any time. All photographs of him were removed from the house, as well as any artifacts from the early marriage. And what's more, I looked like my father, and so it sort of inhibited any bonding I could have had with my stepfather. But here I am, the testimony to the resilience of the human spirit. He was a nice guy. Just, you know, that's life. Other amazing things that happened in my life: the death of my brother when he was 28, the hospitalization of my daughter with a mental illness, I mean, it's life. I mean, buy me a beer and I'll tell you more. Anyway, the second story I wanted to tell you about was my neighbor, Sherry. Now, that's not her real name. These are just normal people, right? Just a lady down the street. She also had a difficult family life growing up. Her father was abusive and, you know, spanked her with a belt and pulled her hair and slapped her face, that kind of thing. He used to say to his kids, I don't want to be respected, I want to be feared. And he would say, you need to live by the golden rule. I make the gold, I make the rules. Pretty abusive guy. He used to take the kids out on these backpacking trips in Colorado for weeks at a time. One time they went out for 3 months with very little food, and they didn't have one campfire. These were ill-equipped backpacking trips. So, tough dude. She got out of that family as soon as she could, and she now works as a social worker, helping other kids from abusive homes. Amazing story number 2 about her. She and her husband made the decision to adopt an infant born addicted to methamphetamine. Wow. So they knew doing this that this child could have all kinds of problems. You know, behavioral issues, sleep problems, poor motor skills. They rolled the dice, and they won. Because this is an exceptional child. She had a rough start, but she's 3 and she's doing remarkably. Very happy for Sherry, but the marriage failed. So her life is still tough. The third one I want to touch on is that of my lovely wife, Betty, or Sparky, as she's known, ever since she was little. Sparky, that's a dog's name. That's what kids say, but her name's Sparky. Her father died when she was 10. This just sounds crazy. Her father died when she was 10. He was a wonderful guy, gregarious, life of the party. Her mother was an alcoholic. Many were the nights Sparky had to put her mother to bed, not knowing which mother she'd get the next morning, the loving, attentive mother or the checked out mother. But my wife is wonderful. She's resilient. She went back to be a nurse at age 50. Now she helps bring babies into the world. It's great. So that's how she has dealt with her challenges in life. So what's percolating in your heads right now? What would you like to share right now? I would love to hear it. What obstacles has life brought you, and what have you done to overcome them? I look forward to hearing your TED Talks someday. Back to you.